everyone. Welcome to the Right Time to Take the Leap, a webinar for undergrad students jointly organized by the Singapore Global Network, also known as SGN, IMDA and GovTech. I'm Carolyn, IMDA's UK Talent Partnership Director. So I'm sure many of you are hearing about Singapore's fast-growing tech and digital sector and the immense potential in the Southeast Asia region. And the question is, what is it like to take the leap and be a part of the action? In our webinar today, we'll delve right into stories by our panelists and share resources to help you along your journey. So before we start the webinar proper, please do bear in mind that this webinar is recorded, and so here's a quick rundown on today's program. So we'll kickstart the webinar with a panel discussion based on some of the questions that you have already submitted. Now, if you have any questions, hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit. And everyone else, please upvote the questions you want to hear answered so we can get to them this afternoon. So today, our three panelists are looking forward to sharing their career journey, pivoting from non-tech backgrounds, as well as finding work in COVID times. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our lineup. We have Miss Jen Loa, who is a product manager from Shopee, which is part of the C Group, a large e-commerce and gaming technology company born and bred in Singapore. And for all of you gamers, I'm sure you're aware that C Group owns Garena. We will shortly ask Jen about her journey from public service health to tech in the private sector. And joining Jen is Mr. Paul Yap from GovTech Cybersecurity. GovTech mission is to empower Singapore with possibilities through infocom and engineering technology. Paul graduated in finance from the US just over 2 years ago and pivoted to tech. Definitely an interesting story for all of you in the audience who are not in tech but interested to take that leap. And last but not least, we have Mr. Lim Ming Yi, who is a recent graduate from UCL and a new joiner to Agoda. Congrats! In fact, Ming Yi has just started Agoda earlier this week, and we are thrilled to learn more about his story today. He will share his experience in finding internship and job opportunities during COVID times. And as an IMDA scholar, Ming Yi can also answer questions about the SGD scholarship. Okay, so let's hear from Jen. Jen, tell us why you chose to return to Singapore, how you pivoted from healthcare to tech, and why Shopee?
Okay, hi, you guys can hear me, right? Okay, cool. So just a quick one. My name is Jen, and yeah, I studied psychology in UCL. And then I guess many of you probably have the questions if you're students right now is that what do you want to do when you graduate? So for myself, I think I knew that I wanted to do something that I believe in, which is I personally truly believe in healthy living and then also something meaningful. So that's why actually being able to help Singaporeans to live a healthier life is something that I can envision myself doing. So that's actually how I first came back to Singapore to be part of like National Health Promotion Board to basically work on improving the health of our nation. And I think that basically gives me the best of both worlds of what I wanted. And specifically what I did in HPB, I think I joined at a time where it's really the start of digital transformation in healthcare. And basically I was really fortunate because I had a chance to actually work on the first few digital health initiatives in Singapore. So I guess I'm not sure if many of you are aware since you might have been away from Singapore for a while, but basically the Healthy 365 app is actually one of the first, I would say, national digital app that we roll out to really help Singaporeans to lead a healthier lifestyle. So I was actually on the team that actually came out with it. And then if you actually go to grocery shopping, if you dine outside, you might get like a QR code sometimes from buying certain food or items. So actually that's where we try to incentivize our people to lead a healthier lifestyle. If you buy one of these healthier items, you get this QR code and you can use our app to scan it and earn rewards. So that was essentially how I really got exposed to using technology to actually transform the way that people live and how it actually can also affect how businesses work. And that was just how I got started in thinking about me being part of a tech firm. So of course, then the question is, how did I transit from public health, healthcare sector to tech? And I think I look back, actually, there are quite a few things that maybe which might be helpful to share with you guys. So I think what is important is that I first started out to really try and understand what is sought after in the industry that I'm keen in. So basically attending talks or talking to your connections. So I think definitely being active on LinkedIn, you can find a lot of resources, events going on. And as well as even, let's say, Singapore Global Network, they also host a lot of events. And of course, Shopee, we do hold a lot of events for public as well to really help you to understand what do we do within the company. So I think definitely encourage you guys to attend these events to find out what's happening out there. And then typically they will share about what we are looking for in the candidates. Then I would think another big thing that really helped me was I actually spent a lot of time thinking, so what is my narrative? And by that, I mean that you look through your story, what you have done before, what's your strength, maybe your internships, where you studied, what exactly is your story? And then how will your story fit into the company? So you need to complete your story if it's not complete. So for my case, I think I had experience in the business and operations side because I launched this digital health initiative. But what I was lacking from what I hear from the industry is that they want a lot of data analytics skills. So it was something that I knew I was lacking in terms of my whole narrative because I had the business, I have the ops, and I need the data part. So then I had the chance to also rotate to within Health Promotion Board, the data team where I actually worked on the insights and analytics for the project that I launched before. So it was really an end-to-end complete of what I can see in the same project I was trying to do. And so I think that's really important for you to find out what is that thing that strings your whole story together. And then, of course, I think for my case, at that point in time, actually, when I joined Shopee, it was first a recruiter that reached out to me. So I think another thing to be mindful of is to be open, because I think at that point, definitely Shopee is less known than now. So I would say that you need to be open to every opportunity that you have. It's not so much at that point in time what it can offer to you, but you need to think long term, right? What's the potential that this company can offer to you? So you need to really evaluate the opportunity by the potential that it has. Yeah. So I think just now Caroline also mentioned, so why Shopee, right? I get this question a lot as well from even candidates that I interview. And I always say it's always four words, right? Right place and the right time. And what do I mean by that is actually, if you think about it, within Southeast Asia, there's not many companies that can offer you product development opportunities, because a lot of these global tech firms, I would say their functions within Southeast Asia office are typically more on the business side. So it's like, let's say BD, marketing. So for you to really be involved in the product development, usually you have to look, at home, which are the companies that have their headquarters in Singapore. And really, I would say, for example, Shopee is one of those that really can give you the opportunity to get your hands dirty and really develop the features that you see. And of course, I think the other point is also that we are not really a startup, but we are also not fully mature. So with that, what you can get is actually a lot of opportunities and also a lot of potential. But you don't have to worry about resources that much because you're also not struggling in that sense. So it really is like the right place at the right time. And I guess a little bit more about maybe when I first joined Shopee, I actually was a user researcher. So actually what does a user researcher do is that we actually work together with the product managers to understand what are the users' pain points, what's the behavior of them, so that we can help to improve the design of our features. So actually then for me, I think it was quite a steep learning curve at the start, because previously at Health Promotion Board, even though I developed like the Healthy 365 app, but it was always through a outsourced vendor. So we never had our own in-house developer. We never had our own in-house designer. And when I came to Shopee, it's like we actually have all these specialist resources in-house, and it's really learning how to work with such a specialized team within your company and how you can work together to really roll out features at breaking speed. So I think the transition itself, I would say, it just involved a lot of getting your hands dirty, really getting down to try and not be afraid to approach people to ask, because the company is growing so fast. It's actually very normal for you to not know what's happening elsewhere beyond your immediate scope. So it's just taking initiative to talk to people, and every time you encounter something, you piece together so that your mental model is growing and you get a better picture of the company. So I think it's just inevitable hard work, but it's not impossible. And then so that was how actually when I first came to Shopee as a user researcher. And actually after that, because I was mainly focusing on the seller projects, basically for our merchants. And actually at some point, the management wanted to start a product management team that focuses on seller projects. So that was how I kind of jumped into product management then from research, because I had a user research side of experience. I understand our sellers, how they do, what they think. And then jumping into product, I think I have a really good understanding of our users then. So yeah, so then I guess another thing that maybe some of you might be considering is also, I had background in psychology. So how do I become a product manager? Because it sounds like a very technical role. And I want to clarify this point that actually, I think it's not impossible for someone without a tech background to become a product manager, because there are different kinds of product managers out there commanding different skill sets. So for example, taking Shopee as an example, if you are actually looking at maybe our homepage or even the product details page or maybe the feed page, these I would say require more of a front end user interface and user experience kind of expertise. So that's a design kind of expertise. But of course, if you're a product manager that's in charge of like search and algorithm, then you definitely need to understand a bit more about data, technology, and the system architecture and so on. So then another example would be, let's say you're the supply chain product manager. So that's where you really need to understand on the business side, how maybe the warehouse, inventory, logistics, how the different system and interact with one another. So basically my point is that actually for product managers, depending on the domain that you're in charge of, it requires a different kind of skill sets. And it doesn't mean that if you didn't study engineering, computer science, you can't be a product manager. So you just got to know what is your strength and identify where you can actually value add and create value. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And sorry, go
Sorry.
on.
No, is there anything you want to add, Jen?
Yeah, I think just one last point is that I guess maybe one last thing to let people know what do I do now as a product manager. Basically, I look after the products for seller management and platform. So essentially what we do is we develop features to actually help sellers to move from, along their selling journey, from onboarding them to incubation, growing them, and also engagement throughout. So then essentially work with people like marketing, business stakeholders, like let's say business development, to understand what's their pain points. And then we have our team of specialists, which I call them the developers, designers, to actually come out with the product solutions. So that's a very brief summary of what does a product manager do. Yeah, and if any of this really interests you, I do encourage you to check out the career side of Shopee, because you can actually find out what are the different opportunities we have. Let's say internships, ME programs, direct hire programs, etc. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jen. That was really, really helpful for people to understand where you came from and what you're doing now. Next one I'd like to invite is Paul. Maybe you'll talk about why you decided to switch to tech from finance, and why did you decide to go back to Singapore, and also some of the strategies you adopted that help you to successfully pivot. And then also finally, do you find it difficult to transit to a permanent role during this pandemic period? So off you go, Paul.
Thanks, Caroline. My name is Paul. Right now, I'm a cybersecurity specialist and focusing on threat analytics and threat hunting at GovTech. But I actually graduated, like what Caroline said, with a finance degree. And before I actually graduated from university, I have like big plans that like I'm gonna be some finance services company CEO. So I did like all the internships in the various aspects of finance, like operation, compliance, so on and so forth. But after I started working on my first job, I noticed that I kind of like the tech side of things better. So my first job is a boutique financial services company, but we mainly help online businesses. So there's a lot of tech involved, a lot of micro e-commerce, a lot of affiliate website, a lot of SaaS products. So I started like kind of like talking to the founders more and more, and then like getting more and more interested in kind of like the tech side of things. And in the end of the day, like finance is kind of subjective, but code is binary. So I like how you can expect your I like how you have an expected outcome based on what you do. So that's where I decided to, okay, I'm gonna go tech. But it's not really that easy. So when I started, so I was working in the US, and then I always wanted to come back to Singapore, but then it was kind of like a 2-3 years thing. And on top of that, I was thinking, okay, 2-3 years overseas, and after that I'll come back, I'll be like an expat status and all. But then everything didn't really work out. So but at the same time, it was kind of fun, because towards the end of my OTP is this 1-year thing in the US, where if you study over there, you get this 1-year free work pass without needing to apply anything. So towards the end of the OTP, I kind of like started to rethink my choices, and it really mainly boils down to a few reasons, right? First is like savings. While I earn a lot more in the US, but after you consider taxes, your rent, living costs, and so on and so forth, I can actually take like roughly a 35% or more pay cut in Singapore, and then I still have more savings. So that's one thing that most people don't really realize. Another thing is basically where the action is. So as I said, like I work a lot with like all the internet companies, and while the business owners might be like Americans or like Europeans and so on and so forth, the one doing the kind of like programming or the action at the back is all from Asia. So I started asking myself, do I want to be where the action is, or do I want to be here? And I mean, the answer is of course back in Asia. And then the last thing is basically I realized, I mean, I have already decided that I wanted to come back to Singapore. So why not now? Why not earlier? Because you will always have kind of like a dip in the curve in terms of your career progression when you are doing a major switch. So the earlier I switch, the better it is and the faster it is. And so in Singapore, I didn't want to like continue finance, right? I started looking into like tech and what can I do. And uh, there's a lot of things that I can tell you, like a lot of different strategy. But I think the best advice is like, first you need to think very hard if that is what you really want, and like if tech is the right choice for you. One of my friend actually mentioned before, if you can sit down in front of the computer and code for more than 4 hours, then you are a programmer. If it's anything below 4 hours, then but it's above 2 hours, then you might be like a consultant or like a tech developer. And anything below, but you still like tech, then you can just do the other stuff in tech. So I guess that's a good start to think where you are. I belong to the above 4 hour category. So I really wanted to like learn programming and all. And I did like learn a bit of programming here and there from the site, but I can tell you that it's more of first you decide, and then after that you just dive down into it. And so I had a lot of Udemy courses, Coursera courses, and then I just keep drilling into like all the different like uh, programming courses that I can find. And uh, at some point you'll realize that you finally understand something, and that is where like you start to see a bit of light. So because of that, right, like while you are in the eye of the storm, it kind of seems like everything is not everything is not working out, everything is not paying off. And right now I can tell you that, oh, I did it, like it's easy, but it's actually not easy at all. So I think a very important thing to note that I wish I have knew this way before when I first started is you actually have to create your own environment in order to push yourself. So for example, some of my family members and like some of my friends were a bit reserved, like had reservation on like my jump to tech. And it's not that they think that it's not going to work, it's just that they are worried because like you have a finance degree, right? Why do you want to go into like tech? So that is understandable, but at the same time, um that negativity is sort of not really good for you when you're trying to jump. So what I did was basically, I mean, I just avoid such topics like job hunting in the tech industry, or like I'm learning programming with people that I think would affect me like negatively, and talk more about such topics to people that would encourage me. So it is something like you have to create the environment that will positively push you. So that is basically what I did. And along the way, there is a lot of there's a lot of job hunting. And I think that one of the things that really helped me is I had this system where I basically every day I'll apply for like X number of jobs. So for me it was 5 jobs, and for somebody that's more gung-ho, maybe 10. For if you're a bit lazy, maybe just 2. But just make sure that you apply for a X amount of job every day, because this does 2 things, right? One is and you don't really have to, don't be choosy. Just apply for everything under the sun that you can find that is even remotely close to what you feel like doing, because that does 2 things. One is you never know where if that job is really what you want to have. Because the thing is, in the JD, like in the job description, it almost never really matches what you're going to be doing, like when you enter the company. So you usually find out when you talk to the hiring manager and the HR. So don't let like the JD deceive you. And then the second thing is go to every single interview that you get with uh your spur of like job hunting, because while talking to the HR, the hiring manager, you will learn more about yourself and you will learn how to answer certain questions about yourself. For example, if you if the HR asks you or the hiring manager asks you something about like this line item on your resume and you don't really know how to answer it, then take it as a learning lesson. And the next time you apply, then the next job comes, the next interview, you will have a better idea on how to answer that particular question. And at the same time, you also learn more about yourself, because like you get into the realization that maybe this is not something I want, or maybe this is something I want, and you will know yourself better, and that will actually steer you into tech even better. And so that I guess that is like my advice and strategy on like how you actually like pivot. In the end of the day, have to realize that everybody has something to offer, even if you are not particularly like tech trained. For example, if you're in finance, like me, uh, I'm trained to look at numbers, right? Profit and loss and all. So I can use that to communicate with the stakeholder and recommend kind of like solutions that I can do that will help their bottom line. So these are kind of the things that a computer science major might not necessarily have. Or maybe if you are marketing trained, you can go study Google Analytics and like incorporate behavior analytics in marketing campaigns. So it's not a big step, but it's many small steps and a lot of work to the goal that you want. And I think Singapore is really good because there is a lot of programs and initiatives that can help you reach there. So um, two of the ones that I applied for and actually got it was one was called Tech in Finance. Basically, is all the financial institution that will train you and work you into the role. And another one is a DigiPen Attach and Train program that I took and eventually landed in with GovTech. So there are many such programs. You just have to look out and find. And speaking of that, which leads me to kind of like transition during COVID. So it's really interesting, but at the same time, it's not that far off normal. So you yes you I the minute I landed in GovTech, like after maybe I think 3 months, it was like work from home. And then so I didn't really know everybody then, and then work from home was even worse because like you have to like talk to somebody, but you can't really see, so it's basically Skype or Zoom or whatever not. And that kind of barrier is a bit more is kind of difficult. But at the same time have to realize that is everybody is in this together. And um, tech, in terms of tech jobs, is still there, and all the more right now there is even a higher demand for like tech related jobs. So it's more of really looking at the right places and kind of reaching out to the right people. So I'll say that in Singapore, sometimes you have to just reach out to the people that you want a job from. And I have a good example. So while I was job hunting right before like GovTech, I saw this startup that was doing some sort of kind of a Japanese animation related stuff. So I basically wrote in and say, hey, I love manga and this is my resume, and I know you're a tech company, so just let me know if there's anything you can offer me for. And in the end, we actually like struck a conversation. We had coffee, and it was kind of a good start. So yeah, I think like even during COVID, like there's a lot of things that you can do, and don't be afraid of having that like barrier that you can't really see the person on the other side. Just go for it.
Fantastic. There's a really good suggestions you've got there. Thank you, Paul. I think there will be more questions coming up for you in the Q&A.
Yeah.
So next one we have is Mingyi. Mingyi, you found not one but two opportunities during these COVID times. So do share with us how you managed to get your intern role and your role at Agoda, and how you found the support given with your IMDA scholarship. So off you go, Mingyi.
Right, thank you, Caroline. So I think I'll start this all off with like a brief or long introduction about myself. So from the time I got my scholarship until where I am today. So somehow in JC, I was looking through the catalog of like degrees that you can do in university. You know, I stumbled upon com science. And I thought maybe there would be something that I could do. Maybe it's something cool that I could go into. So going to like courses online during my JC days, I realized that, you know, it's actually quite fulfilling. It's actually quite fun. So the more I did and the more I enjoyed it, and eventually this led to me getting the NIS scholarship, applying and getting an NIS scholarship in 2015. So with the NIS scholarship, it allowed me to come to UCL, where I graduated just this year with a bachelor's in computer science. Now, I wanted to do, my initial plan was to do my master's this year in Cornell Tech, but unfortunately, because of COVID and like the current situation in the US, I decided that, you know, I might be better off looking for opportunities in Singapore. And like searching for opportunities in Singapore, I realized that, you know, actually things aren't as bad as they seem in the tech world. Everything is still running, everything is still moving. So because of all these factors, I decided that maybe I'll put my master's aside and I'll come back to Singapore and start working in Singapore, starting my career in Singapore. So prior to this, I had already found an internship in Rakuten Viki. So for those of you who don't know, Viki is a video streaming startup. And I found an internship as a software engineer earlier on in the year through LinkedIn. So for the first 3 years, for the first 3 months since coming back from London, this is what I was mainly doing. I was working on my internship with Rakuten Viki. But at the same time, you know, because of COVID and my decision to look for a job, I had to look for a job very quickly within the first, hopefully within a month of graduating from my internship with Viki. So because of this, I had to consolidate all my resources, put in some time into looking for a role in Singapore. Right. So prior to my internship in Viki, I had a myriad of different opportunities in different companies in Singapore. So my first internship was with Accenture. I was doing digital consulting. After Accenture, I moved on to Microsoft and I was doing sales. So with all these different experiences, you know, built up over the years of university, like I kind of got a feel for what I enjoy, what I'm good at, what I'm not so good at. So based on all these things, I realized that, you know, as a fresh com science graduate, also why not try to do the so-called the hardest, the most technical thing I could do with my degree, like use it to the fullest. And that's why I decided to do that, to go into software engineering. So the job search process for me was a rush because I essentially had 2 months to find a job and to start work. So what I did was quite similar to what Paul mentioned earlier on. I was applying to like 10 companies a day. I was going on LinkedIn, I was going on Glassdoor, Indeed, and My Careers Future, which is actually a pretty good site to look for jobs, honestly. So I was going to all these websites, and anything that would interest me, anything that I think I would be remotely interested in, I would apply. So, and this is something that I really agree with Paul on. You know, the job description is written by someone in the company somewhere who might not have access or might not really understand what goes on in the job. So a lot of times they might misrepresent it. So my advice would be really just apply for it, go for interviews, and really get to know the interviewers, get to know the company through the interview process. And I think that would be a very good way to know whether something is right for you. So even as I was applying for like 10 jobs a day, initially, honestly, I didn't get much of a response. So like every day I'll just check my emails, looking for replies from Workday or from like different companies' HRs, but it was quite slow, honestly. So eventually, things started to pick up, and I got several interview requests. So my first week or two doing interviews, I haven't had much interview experience in software engineering. So for those of you looking to join software engineering, the software engineering interview process is really quite different from any other job out there, in the sense that they are very structured technical interviews that we go through. Like, they'll test your coding skills on the spot. They ask a lot of industry specific questions and a lot of things that you would not even get to learn in school. So initially, all my interviews at first, I would fail them. Right? I'll go for it, I'll try it, and I wouldn't even pass the first round of interviews. But as Paul also very aptly mentioned, every single interview is a learning opportunity. Right? When you fail an interview, you start to realize what people are looking for, what kind of why you failed the previous interview, and then you learn from it. So initially, I was failing the coding round. So I went onto websites online where you can practice coding, and I did a lot of these practices every day. Right. Eventually, we're moving on to the second round where they ask you a lot of technical knowledge, or they ask you about yourself. How do you explain your projects? And I got to like learning how to better explain what I've been doing. So another mistake that I always used to make was that, because my previous internships were in consulting and in sales, I would always have this misconception that, it's not very relevant, it's not very significant to something that I would be doing in software engineering. But in fact, it is exactly this diversity of skills that really helped me get an edge in this interview process. So when I was talking about my experiences, they would find it extremely interesting, and then I can blend in some of the things that I know from school and from tech that I think really got the conversations rolling along during the interviews. So through this grit and grind of the interview process and trying to rush out my job, eventually I got quite a few opportunities with Vicky, with Rakuten and Agoda eventually. And I decided to join Agoda in the end because, firstly, I really like the experience talking with the interviewers. I could see the passion they have for technology when talking to them, and it just felt like some place that I would really want to join. And secondly, because travel is something that we all sorely miss now. Travel is something that is very close to my heart that I enjoy. So being able to contribute to a product like Agoda, a company like Agoda, to me is really exciting, and it's something that I find fulfilling when I come to work every day. So this is how I ended up at Agoda. I just started this this week actually, on Monday, and so far it's been a great experience. I'll keep you guys updated on like how it goes in future as well. But yeah, I guess some points that I really want to bring across is that firstly, I guess now more than ever, even though things seem quite bleak because of COVID, you might think that, wages are depressed, there are not a lot of opportunities. But the fact is that tech is one of the few sectors that have been impacted a lot less than the others. So I would say really use this opportunity, try to get into it, and use all these opportunities that we have in Singapore. So instead of tech leaving or opportunities leaving, in fact, every day I see opportunities coming into tech in the form of like companies coming in, startups, big firms alike. So do look up for that. And I think it's a very good time to come in. And secondly, try to find your fit. So in the interview process, not every company is going to be a company that you would enjoy talking to, that would fit you. So do your best, try to apply for everything. But at the end of the day, when you get to choose, find something that you feel would fit you, fit what you want to do in life, and you find fulfilling. Lastly, with regards to specific skills for people who want to join software engineering, you have to practice a lot. It's just part of the job. Try to practice as much lead code as you can. Try to do questions every day, and watch a lot of YouTube. Try your best to learn as much as possible. All of us, including tech or non-tech alike, coming into roles in tech, you are going to learn new things. Like, there's no way around it. Every day is a learning process. Every year is a learning process. So even for comp science major like myself, every single opportunity I've had along the way, nothing that I've learned in school, um, it's not that it's not applicable, but nothing that I've interacted with in these companies is something that I've learned in school. So every single opportunity I move along the way, you have to learn a new language, you have to learn a new framework, some new technology. So it's always a learning process. So at the end of the day, it's just about how much you're willing to learn. You show that mindset for learning, and yeah, I think you'll do well.
Awesome. I thank you again for sharing and reinforcing the fact there's a lot of practice, a lot of slog, a lot of mindset that the other two speakers have mentioned. So thank you, Mei, for your sharing. So I just have, I mean, there are some questions that came through in Form SG, and I think the three of you have answered some of the questions already. But I think one thing that is that's popped up for me is because you guys have been living overseas and now you're back, what sort of tech trends do you see that are quite unique to Singapore, like the culture, the sort of people, the work ethic? So maybe you can just give me tell the audience a very short one-liner about, or two-liners about what you feel about the situation in Singapore right now, that is so exciting for you guys. Maybe start with Jen.
Okay. I guess not so much if this is the trend you're referring to, but to me, I think what's unique about Singapore is that a lot of times you are not just serving the users from Singapore. Because let's say you're working in an American firm, right? Then I guess you're serving the Americans or UK, the British. But in Singapore, typically you're serving the whole Southeast Asian market. So what's good is that actually all these different markets that you are working with, the users have very different culture. There's a lot of things that, because growing up in Singapore, you probably cannot even imagine how someone else from another different culture grew up living and what's their day-to-day behavior. So the fun part is you're really getting exposed to all the different kind of users within your neighboring countries, but you're actually working within all the talents within the region as well, because typically Singapore is always like the HQ for a lot of these tech firms. So I think that's really the key thing about working in tech in Singapore.
Great, Paul.
I think in Singapore, your staff have to work, but there's a lot of very good opportunity once you get the idea going. So why I say this because in other countries like US or like UK, so on and so forth, the country is really big. So your idea might not be the best idea, but just the sheer amount of volume and population there is, it will get you. You can make some sort of living out there, but it's not really scalable, and you can't get it into like the billion-dollar unicorn. Whereas in Singapore, there's a lot of help and subsidy by the government, but at the same time, you have to think about a good idea that can scale well and have a low fixed cost in order for it to survive in Singapore. So I think that's the major difference I see.
Fantastic. Mingy?
Right. I think first and foremost, tech in Singapore is really a lot more international than you would think, because I think as Jen brought up, Singapore is always, or usually in a lot of cases, the headquarters for like the APAC region for a lot of firms in Singapore, a lot of firms in the region. So definitely every day you get to work with a lot of people from different countries coming into headquarters as Singapore. So right, sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. Another trend that like I had a point just now that I wanted to make. Right.
Okay, take your time.
Oh yeah, sorry. I think that Singapore really forces like startups to really think out of the box, because I think one of the main complaints one of the main points that people used to say was that, in Singapore, your market is too small. It's always too small. You cannot come up with a product that can survive having a small market. But in a sense, that also forces companies here to think of a global scale, to try to adapt themselves such that they can survive in a very cost-efficient way and have a product that can expand to different markets across the world. So I think that's a challenge that is unique to Singapore based on our size and also our location, that we have the network to do that as well.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So there are more questions, but we'll just take a short moment to do an introduction by MDA and GovTech to go through our offerings to help those who want to pivot like Paul and Jen, as well as those who are after scholarships like Mingyi. So let's just bear with us with a few slides, and I'll just talk through them, and then shortly after that we'll resume with the Q&A. Okay. So as you all know and have heard, Singapore's tech future is so very bright. According to the 2019 Manpower Survey, there's a strong demand for tech professionals with over 20,000 vacancies that needs to be filled. And this number is only growing. So there's a huge space there. For example, we have C Group, who's the parent company of Shopee, and they have recently signed an agreement with IMDA to hire 500 Singaporeans with 80% targeted at entry-level roles. Now, to support Singapore's tech talent push, IMDA has several programs to help Singaporeans upskill in tech. This includes the CITREP Plus, which are shorter courses and in itself already heavily subsidized. And on top of that subsidy, you can use your $500 SkillsFuture credits, which can be used for those courses, as well as any approved online or classroom courses. And for those who are looking for the longer form bootcamps, IMDA has a Tech Immersion and Placement Program, also known as TIPP. Now, for those of you who are overseas, you won't lose out because you can take advantage of our TIPP OS program. We can upskill before returning to Singapore. So to qualify, you will have to submit application for our approval. And once it's approved, enroll in the course, pay the full fees, complete it, and then you have 12 months to return to Singapore to work in a tech role or build a startup. And then you can submit the claims for the subsidy. And this is, it looks like there's a lot of steps, but don't worry, if you ever forget or want to find out more, just ping me. At the end of this presentation, my email will be out there, my LinkedIn is out there, just ping me and I'll tell you more about it. Okay, and for those of you who are studying, you might be interested in our scholarships. So the first one that I will talk through is the IMDA's SGD scholarship, which is open to students from both tech and media courses. And here's a list of benefits you can expect from the college scholarship. I won't read them up to you, but as you can see, it's pretty fairly substantial. And the SGD scholarship is not tied to any agency or company. And like Mingyi, you're free to work in any tech or media company, subject of course to IMDA's agreement. And the bond period varies depending on the length and location of the courses. The applications are opening in January, but you can pre-register now. The QR codes are there, or you can ping me to keep updated. And now I'll hand over to Jia, who will talk about the Smart Nation scholarships.
Hi everyone, I'm Jia. Caroline, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm from the GovTech team, and I wanted to share a bit about the Smart Nation scholarships we have at GovTech. This scholarship is offered by GovTech, Cybersecurity Agency, and IMDA, and it's for people who are keen to pursue tech for public good. So if you don't know about GovTech, GovTech is the government agency that leads Singapore's Smart Nation initiative and public sector digital transformation. And it's the lead agency delivering the government's digital services to the public. So for example, I think those of you who are in Singapore, you will know about Trace Together, Safe Entry, the elections queuing app, SingPass. There's a lot of stuff that GovTech works on. For students like you guys, you can apply for scholarships, internships, and full-time roles. And we have some details of the scholarships on the slides. But if you want to find out more, you can just contact me over LinkedIn. I'll post my details in the chat as well. And now, over to you, Carolyn.
Okay, so just before I move on to the Q&A, I'd like to give you all a couple of upcoming events that might interest you. So get ready to grab the QR codes so you can register. But in case you are not quite ready to take any QR codes, we'll be sending this out to you as well. So the first one is the Shopee Product Management and Design Sharing Session next Tuesday at UK 11 o'clock or Singapore time 7 o'clock. So this is a good opportunity for those who are looking to product management to understand workflow between teams. And on Thursday the same week, also at the same time, DBS is holding their recruitment talk for their SEEDS program. It's a skills enhancement program for those of you who want to have a more curated career in tech. So maybe sign up for those two programs and find out more about what's there out there, okay? So just as a quick one, thank you everyone for taking time today to join this event. It was brought to you by 3 agencies, SGN, GovTech, and IMDA. We'll be sending you the handy links as you saw, including the job search resources for your tech career. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome SGN's new UK rep for UK and Ireland, Bao Hui. Can you wave, Bao Hui? If you're based in the UK or Ireland, and do just drop an email or connect via LinkedIn. And also, I've been asked that this is a shout out for all of you who have yet to join SGN. Do sign up now, be part of the growing community, and you get access to all these exciting events and content of Singapore. Okay, now, before we move on to the informal part, right, which won't be recorded, I'd like to invite the panelists to give a one-line advice for those who are graduating soon. What are the steps you can take while in university to improve your job prospects? Let's start with Jen again.
Okay, I guess one short one for me is that basically I think just be proactive to really find out about the job market. And I think it's important because basically you know what they are looking out there and it helps you to really profile yourself. So you need to know how to craft your story to fit what they're looking for.
Thank you, Jen. Paul?
I think as first you decide, then you just follow through with it, because nothing is gonna seem like it's working when you're at it. So but then once you're out of it, then you will realize what you have been through. So just follow through.
Fabulous. Mingyi?
All right, for me, I think really find out what you like, find out how you fit in, and then do your best to learn as much as possible to become the person that you want to be.
Great. Are there any more questions that people want to ask the three panelists?